Peace, love, blessings, and honor. Thanks for joining us, everyone. I'm your co host, Ize Redd,
And I'm your co host, Reality Soldier.
and we are Garvey's
Garvey's
Ghost
Ghost
in
in
the
the
Spectrum
Spectrum
of
of
Roots.
Roots.
I knew you'd be impressed with that. That was a good intro, already. I told you.
Yes.
I thought.
So how do you
Well,
do?
today is a very, very special day, and I'm really chuffed.
Yeah, me too.
We've got a fellow that I've known for a little while, and haven't seen him for a little while. And he's well. Let me just read out some of. I don't know. Tell me if this is right. 'Cause it just seems he's a world Tai Chi champion.
Wow.
He is a European gold medalist.
What?
He's an instructor. Again, let me get this right. Long fade Tajiquan. I said that right, didn't I?
Yes.
And he's also a resident. You're still teaching at the London School of Hapkido.
Yes.
Anything else to that? Did I miss anything out, Major? Because that seems
the
like
resume?
a lot.
No.
That's
Keep
a
it
resume.
simple.
Yeah. A lifelong martial artist, boys and girls. And I'm really happy that we're here to have a chat with him and talk about his life, his philosophy, his achievements. And the thread running through it is that we're Londoners here. We all used to go shaka as well. So that's
Yeah.
that's a big thing.
I think one thing we should do, though, mention his name.
Yeah, what's your name again? Barry McGinlay.
There you go.
Now,
Ladies and gentlemen.
do we call you Master Barry or Seafood Barry or
Just Bazza.
just
Easy,
Bazza?
Bazza.
Yeah.
Easy,
That's how we
Bazza.
like it.
We like that. We like that. Okay, so I know that was a lot. That was a lot. You've done many different martial arts, and we're not going to go too deep into all the ramifications. I'm more interested in the person behind the achievement. So. Tell us a little bit about the early days, where you were born, the home life, all that sort of stuff. What's the story? I know what he's going to tell us. He's going to say, "Yeah, I was born on a junk in Kowloon, and then I was taken up into the mountains in the Shaolin Temple."
Yes.
And if it's not so, please inform us.
So, on my way here to East London, the land of the rising sun,
Okay.
in the ghetto
Yes, sir.
of East London, where some of our Chinese immigration and people, the wash houses,
Right.
and this is where I was born,
Okay.
Okay.
Hackney.
So you were
Right.
actually
And I was
born
born
in
in
Hackney.
Hackney Hospital, original Kung Fu Cockney guru.
Ah.
I was born in Hackney, and off Midway Road, off Dalston Kingston High Road.
Oh well, you used
Okay.
to live there.
Yeah.
And then we lived in Hackney Downs Estate,
All right.
Okay.
which was not easy
Yeah.
back
Bit
in
rough.
the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the hospital it's the old Hackney Hospital now.
Which is no longer.
Yeah, you know what it is now because I was born there. You know what it is now.
No.
It's an institution for the mentally challenged.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to make any trite jokes or draw any parallels with
Yeah.
my own crazy disposition, but yeah, folks, it's true.
Yes. So I was born in Hackney and kind of bred up in Glasgow.
Okay.
My mum is Irish and Scottish. My father is Chinese.
Right.
My father does come from Kowloon.
Wow.
And he was an accountant and basically kind of done all the books for the Chinese restaurants in Chinatown.
Look at that.
Cool.
And
I mean, down Chinatown, you mean
in London,
West-
Chinatown.
Yeah, okay. The Chinatown.
yeah,
Right.
in London. And so kind of like back in the day, you would have maybe 2 books.
Yeah.
So he knew how to cook the books,
Hey.
I suppose.
Yeah.
And
In that
yeah.
wok.
So,
Wok.
For real.
So yeah, it was born in 1967, so very much a 60s child.
Yeah.
And
Was your father a martial artist? Or?
my father wasn't really a martial artist, but he was a bit of a lad,
Okay.
and he knew who to look after himself.
Right.
From the stories what I hear
Right.
from my mother, and I didn't really kind of grow up with him.
Okay.
And it was something which this is probably part of my martial art journey.
Right.
Is looking for my culture and my heritage.
Yes, sorry.
The same.
That makes a lot of sense.
Which I didn't really understand
Right.
when I was in the process, like a lot of us don't understand.
Okay.
And it's only in hindsight we go,
Right.
Okay.
I was searching.
Okay.
And so that's how I kind of got into it in that sense.
So how was what was your experience being in school in the
So my experience in school,
70s? Primary school particularly?
in primary school was primary school. I had memories of, again, living in a very kind of rough area, King's Cross, in the 70s,
Wow.
where like
That was rough,
like
wasn't it?
proper ladies of the night.
Yeah.
And
A lot of drugs.
and the drugs and I was brought up by my mother. I was, so my father wasn't around.
Right. Any siblings?
And I've got siblings, yes. One of them is no longer with us. He took his life. He did, and that's part of probably our upbringing and post-traumatic stress
Carrying that trauma.
of the trauma. As we're understanding a lot more in this day and age, how
Absolutely.
ancestral trauma is passed on
Absolutely.
in many different in our ancestors, and sometimes our ancestors also choose who to kind of give a custodial kind of seal to change it as well,
Right.
which I believe.
Okay.
And like, yeah, man, you're here to change
Yeah.
things,
To break the cycle.
and yes,
Rectify and
yes.
solidify.
And so yeah, all of that. I know suddenly we're going in a bit deep.
No, it's cool. It's cool. It's
But
good. Like we said, we want to know you as a person.
yes. So my roots is very much kind of like East London, kind of single parent family, kind of mixed race, mongrel. Because back in the day, in that sense of in 1967, so close to the 70s, you know, the whole boat person kind of vibe.
Right.
Oh yeah, you boat person being.
Yeah.
Now I may not look
We used
so
to get
much
banana
Chinese.
boat, innit? So,
Yes.
Because
So-
I'm mixed race as well, so it's the
Yes.
same kind of, do you know what I mean? Go on.
Yeah. So it was a lot of racism at school. Yeah. School in Scotland was tough, and I can't emphasize the word tough
I can
enough.
imagine.
And only being the non-white person in the school, even though I may look white, but I definitely wasn't, and I came from, as they say, a broken home,
Right, yeah.
as Gil Scott Heron would say.
Yeah.
But we wasn't broken.
Yeah.
We were strong.
Yeah.
And this teacher goes, "Why are you taking so long?" You know, and then I push my desk, and you're gonna do your kung fu then, you know. And I just run out the class and run all the way home. Told my mum. My mum was just like, "Come, we're going straight back there." Pulled me all the way there to the school. "Where's the teacher? Come here. What did you say to my son?" She slapped the teacher right in the face. I was like, "Oh no."
My mum done the same thing.
And what can I say? You know, one woman army. My
Yeah.
mother, my mum.
Formidable.
Yeah, and she stood by strong.
I think that's the Scottish and Irish roots as well.
Yes.
And
That Celtic blood, man. It's,
Yeah, they've got that fire. Do you know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Definitely.
That's right. And there was lots of, and then after that, they used to, was it strict? Yes. You used to get the belt, a leather strap like that, cut like a V, like a snake tongue.
See?
And the head teacher would always say, "Watch Barry take the belt, everyone." And if you switched, extra one. And never used to switch, just hold it like that, and
was
just look him
universal.
in the eye. Just
Did you
look
feel
him in the eye.
victimised at school?
Sorry?
Was you victimised because you was mixed race, do you think? at school?
Yes, and look, there was a point where I was made to drink, you know, the toilet water. and you would drink the toilet water, the kids. But then I'll be fighting as well every day. That school, I must have smashed every single window in that school.
Wow.
The police come round to my house. We look so angelic and so beautiful because we are beautiful, man. And they came round and go, oh, we have, and we're standing behind my mum, me and my brother, and they're just like, they couldn't possibly do that. Look how beautiful these children are. We smashed every window in that place.
So, was there a discernible difference between your experience in Scotland in school and then coming back to school in London?
Big time.
Was it like, you said, I'm home.
Yes, when we came to London.
What age did you come back?
We came about 11.
Okay.
We did.
So starting secondary.
So we had a turbulent childhood, and it was
Suppose
up
you got
and
ribbed
back.
for your accent would have been somewhat Scottish.
Oh, it was pure Glaswegian.
Was it? Okay.
Oh dear.
Aye, it was pure
Yeah,
Glaswegian, you know what I mean, wee man? This is no fucking about, man. It ain't there. Just get in there, man, and just give one. It was full on Scottish accent.
Go on.
And but my mum come from a big family, like 6 uncles,
Right.
and a sister. When we lived in Scotland, a part of that story I just told you, pre that, I lived with my nan and my granda in one room, my mum, me and my brother, and my 2 uncles in another room, and my auntie and uncle and their 5 kids in another room.
Right.
Wow. Yeah.
And with a dog, of course.
Right.
And we all, and it was the best times of my
Yeah.
life all
Family.
together.
Yep.
And it was proper kind of like full on tribe, like big.
Yeah.
It's like,
Okay.
so no one really messed with us, but at the same time we had lots of fights, but my uncles would always make sure it was fair.
See.
But I guess there would have been that kind of us against the world kind of mentality that builds that resilience in you.
Yes.
But you say it was sound pretty horrific, making
Yeah.
kids drink toilet water and fighting every day.
Yeah.
But that would have sort of solidified that family
Yeah.
strength, that family character.
Yes, very, very
So
much
when you came
so.
to London, it was like piece of cake.
London was like coming to like Toy Town.
Yeah.
It was easy.
Yeah.
It was like, wow, people look a bit like me. They
Yeah,
look
yeah.
not quite, white. They're not black. They're kind of mixed. They're like, it's great. I was like,
I guess it was
yes.
easier to have that cultural affinity with other people as well. So that you share that, and
Yeah.
so essential for a teenage boy in particular.
Very, very much. And a fatherless teenage boy as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, for real.
Without the guardian of a male
Yeah.
figure, which was really important, even though I had a very strong female figure.
The matriarchy is strong.
Yeah.
And you can understand why these female figures are incredibly powerful and strong in our
In our
history.
culture in general. I mean,
Culture.
Coronation Street is
Yeah.
it's all about the
Yeah.
matriarchs
Yeah.
of every household. They were the strongest characters.
Yeah.
But I suppose your uncles would have played that male role model within your family unit
Yes, they
when you
did.
was around them.
Yeah, but they did, and it was kind of like hot and cold.
Okay.
Because in that sense, we came from. Not only did you have, like, the cultural difference in that sense of Chinese, Scottish, and Irish, but then we also had the religion of the Protestant and Catholic
Yeah. Oh, wow.
thing. Because I lived in an environment which was a Catholic environment,
Right.
and literally we had pictures of like, the Pope.
Yeah.
And then you had mates who were Protestants, and they lived on the other area where the popes of, King Billy. And, we had the IRA and the UDA. And you couldn't have mates who were like
Yeah.
all of that.
Today's
So we had...
generation just don't know.
They ain't got a clue, bruv. Like,
It was...
yeah, I remember them times.
It was tough. It was, and that was just in Glasgow. I mean, who knows what it was like in Northern Ireland.
And it kind of underlines how as a young male, all of these influences, all of these experiences, they sort of, it's almost like they make you or they break you. I know many people. You probably know a lot of people went down the criminal road and just went
Yeah.
straight on the badness.
Yeah.
And then there's something in us. Maybe it's not to upset our mothers or whatever it was, that we managed to stay this side of the line.
Yes.
And find another form of expression that turns out to be quite productive and wholesome. And that's character building, isn't it?
It is, and there was those almost the two worlds that I lived in, and going to secondary school and especially in London, and it was a great place to be because family wasn't and home life wasn't too good, so school was good. I was mainly the carer.
Right.
And so it was like, it was tough for me in that sense. So you have to grow up very quick.
Right.
And so it wasn't, it was a great place to be, school. Like making like kung fu movies or being in a London education authority.
Right.
It was like, I think that was the forefront of great education.
Seeing at the time,
Because you had real teachers who wanted to be teachers and embraced people of differences who come from a broken home or stuff like that, not quite the norm.
Yeah.
And so they were, and like youth workers, they were really youth workers. And there weren't almost any boundaries. It was very integrated.
Yeah.
And they cared for you, and they that they gave you time, which maybe you didn't get from family and from the home.
So you mentioned the teachers. I remember the very foundational teachers that kind of shaped the trajectory of my life, and I could name them now as you would. But I'm interested in their impact on you and how you was able to sort of take into account all your experiences and then started to go on your journey to the current day. How did that go?
Well, to the current day, to where it came from, I would say it was more like the youth centres, the youth clubs. I spent most of my time in a don't think they have them anymore, adventure playgrounds.
Yeah.
And where you would literally be up 20, 40, 60 feet high, running, jumping, swinging off ropes. I mean, they would all be, like closed. They do not have them. The word adventure playground probably doesn't exist, and it's not
Kids
allowed to.
They're not allowed to play when it's raining. They're not allowed to go out when it's
Because of the
snowing.
and stuff like this. So I spent most of my time climbing trees on Hampstead Heath because we came back from living in King's Cross to the East End and Hackney to then coming back at the age of 11, and we actually arrived homeless in London. We did, because my mother basically saw a murder and the police couldn't protect us. Wow. So we were basically on the road and on a night bus from Glasgow, and the police literally said, we cannot do anything there.
I thought we had it hard, bro. This is
Man.
we were living fairy tale.
And we basically lived for a couple of days on the edge of the road where they had these buildings. When they were doing roadworks, they had these little metal corrugated iron sheds. You two probably remember them on the side of the road. Then they have a little door. They had two benches. Then you had donkey jackets.
Adam, what was it?
On there.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
So
like a workman kind of.
Yeah. They obviously not allowed to have those type of things on the road now.
Right.
They'll all be sleeping in it.
Yeah, trust me.
And so we came back to London like that, and going from school and all the teachers were just incredible, welcoming and just loving and good vibes.
That must have been a stark change.
It was a big difference from Glasgow.
Did that make you more of a better student in terms of your actual learning? 'Cause you
No,
actually-
it didn't. There was
okay.
there was too much confusion.
Right.
Even I experienced the love and the good vibes from all of those teachers, but I was still finding my way, and that there wasn't any self-esteem even then. That it was very low self-esteem,
Right.
and it wasn't any self-love. It was just pure survival.
Right.
Pure survival.
So you didn't even get a chance to really think about ambition and what you wanted to do.
Absolutely not. I you know, there was absolutely no way.
Wow.
And there was nothing of that. There wasn't any future. It was very bleak.
Day-to-day living, basically.
Yes, yeah.
Surviving.
Yeah, and especially looking after a parent.
Yeah.
And it was.
So
tough.
the incident that why you had to came back did have quite a toll on Mum then?
Well, it had a toll on Mum and probably my brother as well,
Okay.
because apparently he possibly saw it happen as well.
Oh man.
So there was lots of things going on, but a lot of things, as in family, don't really come out until later in life, 20, 30, 40 years, and it's like stuff like that. And so yeah, there's lots of stuff.
I guess as a young person going through all of that stuff, I mean, there would have been avenues for you to, almost like escapism. For me, it was definitely music and literature. I would read, go in my room, because I had a room. That was a new thing in the later part of my life, but teenage life. But having your own space, only because I had 3 younger sisters and boys and girls, you know, that dynamic. So I had to have my room, and reading and music was my escape. So I'm figuring that music would have been an escape for you. What were you first into?
What can I say? Music was a big saviour for me.
What were you into?
And that would have been Bob Marley, the Beatles, basically, and not even we used to have like Walkmans, but we had some dodgy, cheap version of a Walkman, and we couldn't quite, not the Sony Walkman, with the all trendy thing.
What do you
It
mean?
was some
Walkman?
yeah.
a Walkman is like a cassette,
A cassette.
which was a cassette player, and you put it in, and you have the batteries, and when you didn't have the money, you spin it around with a pencil to save the batteries, and I used to literally go to bed listening to the Beatles, Bob Marley, and listening to an audio talking of Bruce Lee.
Oh, wicked.
Okay.
And that was my kind of saviour in that
Yes.
sense of what I probably got it from Camden Market or something like that.
Okay.
And so music was a big thing for me.
You were saying that music was a big part of your life. It's a source of, escapism for everybody in that time, especially in the 70s. Not only that, we had some damn good music in those times as well.
So revolutionary.
Sorry, I don't want to be ageist or nothing, but what you're like listening to nowadays, it's rubbish. So, all right, music, and you'd already done some judo while you was up in Scotland. So
Yes.
and I imagine as being of mixed heritage Chinese as well, you would have drawn a lot of affinity with one of the greatest people of the 20th century, Liu Xiaolong, Bruce Lee. So how did you tap into that? What was you must have drawn a lot of energy from that.
Very much so. That it was one of those things like all young boys had posters. Posters of Bruce Lee everywhere.
What was wallpaper in them days? We didn't have none.
Yes.
We used to cover up all the patterns on the wallpaper.
Everything, every square inch.
Yes. And he was, again, our saviour and our teacher, our long distance remote teacher.
Definitely.
In that sense, we never met in person, but he taught us all many things.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal the impact he's had. I mean,
Yes.
cross-culturally, I mean, there is not a black community on planet Earth I would say, that is not heavily
Yeah.
influenced and has such reverence for this one man.
Yeah.
And the more you learn about him, it's this sort of openness and generosity of spirit where he was open to everybody, because before that it was very dogmatic and very regimented. Did you pick up
That's-
on that earlier on?
Absolutely, and just the whole thing about his wife as well being white American, the mixed
Yeah.
with his son and daughter in later life, the whole thing of him coming from Asia and then teaching, being open, what we discovered later on in his life, being very open, and it's not about color or race or faith. It's just, I really like you,
Yeah.
and I think we can have a good vibe, keep teaching, coaching,
The philosophy
learning.
of being a human being.
Yes,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and that was very much holding truth. Him and Muhammad Ali
Oh,
Okay.
man.
and Bob Marley.
Yeah.
We're talking about role
Idols.
models
Yeah.
and idols, which we don't really have that in this day and age of such substance.
Yeah.
What really stood for something.
Yeah.
Icons.
And these are like lifetime icons, which are kind of makings of me. And as I say that, I was like, God, I feel like taking words from Curtis Mayfield. These are the makings
it's the
of
truth.
what
I
we
mean,
do.
I mean, later as you say that,
Yeah.
that was underlined even further when I read the autobiography of Malcolm X, and it was this sort of thing where you see the transformation from this sort of street hood, a very intelligent young man, got battered and bruised by racism, withdrew, became a street thug, and then found redemption.
Yeah.
And it's this sort of the ability to be able to journey and transition into a greater and a higher being,
Yes.
exemplified by martial arts.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, very, very much so. And Bruce Lee was one of those characters, and I think, you know, what we seen it in a movie. You know, No Dogs, No Chinese, in that park. We had it very recently here in the UK. No blacks, no Irish, no dogs.
Yes.
I have friends who their father is Irish and their mum is Guyanese, and for them to try and find a flat, they were like smuggling each other into houses, and when
Yeah.
a landlady came, they'd be in the cupboard, you know, showing, and or the other one would give sympathy for the Irish one, or the other give sympathy for the black lady who came from Guyana, and they met at the
Yeah.
dance halls and the places where they dance, and they just fell in love because
Yeah.
that's what we do,
Yeah.
irrelevant of colour, class, race.
So apart from sort of a cultural affinity, what did you initially get when you started to get more serious? I know you did judo when you was younger, but when you decided, oh, I'm going to do this now, that time when you said, I'm going to do a martial art, what did you start with?
Well, I started judo, aikido, hapkido.
Wow.
And so we're talking about the things. My mum took me very early on to a karate class and stuff like that. But because we were so transient and always moving from one home to the other, everything was just never settled. There was
Right.
never,
So it's never
That's
consistent.
interesting.
nothing, never.
That's so interesting. That I'll say that because it's reflected in your own journey of doing
Yes.
different arts rather
Yes.
than sort of locking down
one.
as would have been the case then. A man would just stay in one thing.
Yes,
I
that's
guess
right.
Bruce's philosophy would have enabled you to take advantage of that transience then.
Yes.
Just
yeah.
being sort of open and less dogmatic.
Yeah, very, very, very much so. And I think kind of going to I was at St Pancras Boxing Club, which is one of the oldest boxing clubs in Great Britain, and that was in Lyndhurst Hall in Tunbridge
It
Club.
wasn't part of Repton or anything. Was
No,
it? Oh, okay.
no, it was pre that apparently, and I had a good career and I was good at boxing, and it was that again I mentioned Muhammad Ali, that you know the amazing
Yes.
human being and amazing achievements of that human, what he'd done and what he had to deal with in life. So
And sacrifice.
my mum was, and it was very clear to us to see that taking headshots is not good for you. And my mum was very wise. And also, I had a coach who gave me gloves, who would pick me up and take me there and invested a lot of time in me. But my mum, again, woman's intuition, she said, I don't quite like this guy.
We could see. Your mum sounds incredible.
And little did I know, but in the future I heard
He wasn't a nice guy.
he wasn't a nice guy.
And that was a common.
See, mother's intuition, man. It's just
Yes.
like, you know.
And this is where we need the female energy and the
Of
male
course.
energy
Yeah.
constantly.
Yeah.
Constantly.
Definitely. Yin and yang, and
That this is why it's really important for the youths, for family units to be as best as we can. It's tough. It's not easy to collaborate and harmonize and unify as parents and kind of stand by our children and be observant enough to watch. So keep a watchful eye on them. Yeah. So.
And that shapes you as an adult.
So
being a
I said
father
no.
yourself.
I was, and literally he came round my house. Can I have the gloves back?
Okay.
And I was like, "Ooh, here you go. Here's the gloves." And I gave the boxing gloves, and they were expensive back in those days. Getting any form of gloves or anything, mitts.
Yeah.
And so I let go of the boxing and went down more the avenue of the martial arts and just got more into Hapkido.
Okay.
I did, which is a Korean form of martial arts, which we see in Game of Death
Okay.
of one of Bruce Lee's teachers, Jae-Han Jae,
Okay.
who was a character in one of Bruce Lee's movies, who was an amazing
You know,
ambassador.
it's funny you said that. I always think that it. I don't know what it was, but I always felt that it was. Enough respect to Master G, but I always felt it wasn't a great representation. His being in that.
Yeah.
And if I want to show somebody that I want to demonstrate someone in the movie industry who does my art, I'd always point to Master Wang In Sik. Especially in Dragon Lord with Jackie Chan.
Yeah.
That fluid.
Absolutely. But unfortunately, he's not with, one of the godfathers of Kung Fu movies.
Yeah, exactly.
Bruce Lee. So this is why I say his word. One of the best fight scenes is with Jackie Chan and Wang Xiong.
Wang In Sik.
Wang In Sik.
That was Dragon Lord, was
Yes,
it?
yes, on the mountain top,
And
and
he's
he
smoking a
does all
cigarette
the
and just basically taking the mix.
yeah. And he's an incredible martial artist, and even but again, Hapkido then had its one foot in old school and one foot in the new school with Bruce Lee, and then with Jackie Chan in two very iconic characters of the new of Jackie Chan, and then the old school guy with Bruce Lee.
Yes.
So again, that prompt, what you just said is interesting.
So you're talking about the films and the artists in the films, Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee. Do you think the films were portraying the art in their true form when we were seeing it?
When we were seeing it, we probably didn't have a squat diddly do what it was, but we loved it.
Right, yeah.
We loved the revenge.
Okay. The storyline, the plot.
The revenge of the downtrodden, and being made to walk, crawling on your knees, to then going back to the master, and then master building you up, making you strong and powerful, and the whole kind of vibe. So
because the other thing with the movies as well is like there's a premise. It's almost like the cause for there to be an action and then a reaction. So in movie writing techniques, you got to have that. That's your motivator, your vengeance. Whereas in the real world, martial arts is about self-control. It's about being dispassionate.
It's
But
the last resort.
you don't learn that until later. And there's a great quote that you said, something like, what is it? I'm going to read here. Fighting is not martial arts. Martial arts is culture and a philosophy. And I really love that quote.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, we could talk about fighting as a means of exacting retribution, but it becomes very emotional.
That culture, the philosophy, the history. And I think this is why I can only say from my experience of what I witnessed and what I saw, is a lot of West Indian people of colour was fascinated by martial arts because it had history, it had culture, an ancient thing which was deprived of them.
But it tapped into that oppressed people as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But and unless you were really educated and you were searching from a young age, that's why we were fascinated by water margin, monkey magic,
innit?
history, philosophy, ancient lands.
Yes.
We were so desperate for it. That these things just captured us. It was like a spell. It was magic. Just kind of like going, because we were so deprived of it.
Yeah.
But there is a spirituality to martial arts as well, isn't there?
Yes, and I almost detest the word spirituality.
Sorry, I was being cautious when I
because
said it.
everything what it represents now.
Yeah,
in
now,
that sense,
yeah.
where people have captured and hold it and twisted it and
Yeah.
mutated it
Yeah.
into the Oxford kind of mindfulness and mindless. Get out of the mind.
There you go.
Mind.
Let's have
mindful,
instinct.
mindful,
Yeah.
Yeah,
mindless.
yeah,
You know, as they said in the 60s, get out of your mind.
yeah,
exactly.
innit?
Stop thinking.
So what would you call that? Because I wouldn't know.
I would say, from my experience, I've always been searching for the scholar warrior approach, the intellect to heart.
Right.
And understanding, and again, when we talk about the physicality of martial arts and transcending it, and that's where these characters like Bob Marley, Muhammad Ali, Bruce Lee, they transcended what it wasn't just music to just jump up and down and party to and have a good time. And you know, when man is going into prison to go, no, I ain't going to fight.
I know.
You transcended a boxing match.
I think Lennox Lewis got a lot of criticism or side eye from people because he sort of was, he didn't want to be this sort of thug, like, you know, like Richard Pryor said to Leon, what do you? I knock motherfuckers out. But Lennox was coming with this thing like, I like to play chess. And they were going, what? It was like, oh, you got a higher intellect thing going on.
Yes.
We want brutality.
Yeah, that's right. Probably ahead of his time again.
Exactly.
People not ready for it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's the duality of physical combat and in philosophy, higher thinking, higher resonance. It's that yin and yang. That's the yin and yang.
Yes.
I think people focus mainly on the flashy technique and how high can you kick.
Absolutely.
Knowing that the higher you kick is the more unstable you are. High
Yes.
kicks are out, baby. Just in case you didn't know, high kicks are out.
Yes. But the beauty, and we're all attracted by the flashiness of it all. And it's great. And
Almost balletic.
yes, and also when we talk about that in a physical sense and a in a metaphysical sense, when we're young as kids, we need to come out. So we need to do these big movements, move far.
Yeah.
They all have to be
Physical
big
expression.
movements.
Yeah.
And then as we get older and wiser, things become a lot more subtle.
Yeah.
Just even the way you hold the cup of tea and give the man the tea.
I think that's the wisdom of age.
Ooh,
Yeah.
okay.
As
that's
you
a little bit
mentioned,
different.
as you mentioned, young people, just incidentally,
Yeah.
quick, things like conflict resolution. It's like I got another quote of yours: "Is if you're there, you don't be there," and the voice is a really important weapon and should be used before physical violence. I'm a great advocate of that.
Yeah.
And that moment of clarity that I described earlier, it was like
Yeah.
this fella looked into my eyes and saw that I was at one with the universe, and whatever energy he was coming with. Nothing was said to him. The face was placid. I was supremely placid. and in tune with the universe. And he literally turned on his feet and ran away. Didn't walk away, ran back to his car, got in and drove off. Anybody would say martial arts is a good thing for young people. We see the state of young people running up and down doing all kind of madness nowadays, right? Youth crime, kids walking up and down with zombie knives and the whole lot. If I had a choice and I had money, I would instill martial arts training at school.
Yeah.
As, you know, part of your PE lessons for that tranquility and that whole yoga, all of that stuff. If you had a budget, unlimited budget from the Home Office, and they said, right, we're putting you in charge of youth development, how would you go about it?
I would again adopt your approach very much so. And also, I don't know if you're aware, but in Thailand, some of the young kids, like when you're 18, 20, you have to spend 3 months as a monk in a
like
temple.
A national service.
Yes, Dread. And then,
Yeah.
you know, you have to go with your bowl and beg
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And it's
Okay.
part of the culture.
A foundation of humility.
Yes.
I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think this is now, and we need to reboot. We need to, a bit like Prince in that sense, you know, when he put his finger in the slave record companies and all of that, and are no longer known as Prince.
Yeah.
And almost martial arts needs to rebrand and reboot.
Right.
Because when we think of martial arts, we think of fighting.
Yeah.
We think of bullying. We think of low self-esteem. We think of
Revenge.
discipline. Oh, the kids need discipline.
Yeah.
They need to know what to do. But really, it's a lot deeper. It's understanding culture, philosophy, kind of understanding about language, understanding about herbs, medicine,
Self-awareness
poetry,
as well, right?
all of it.
Yeah.
And this is where earlier on I said to understanding about the scholar and the warrior approach, and understanding both of that. And our ancestors knew this very much well, because when you're not at war, you must be at peace. And you must be writing poetry, you must be
Yes.
Doing art.
playing instruments.
Yeah, for real.
In that sense, players of instruments, and then we give us more harmonious feelings. So when we're on the battlefield, we find that movement, moving through time and space. We're constantly aware how that harmony feels inside us when we're under extreme stresses.
Right.
Yeah.
Whether a man is walking towards you in the car and you're just like, you don't know where it comes. It just comes. There's a comfortableness, a softness,
Exactly.
and a kind of emptiness, a softness, and sometimes we're not even aware of that until, wow, he just walked away. Why did he walk away? Well, babes, you just went somewhere else. I've never seen you like that.
Let's talk more chronologically about your journey through learning martial arts. You said you were doing judo, Hapkido. Hapkido, for all those who don't know, is the Korean martial art. They call it the Korean national art. Joint locking, kicks, punches, and all that stuff. And I want to see the thread that goes from that to Tai Chi, because if you ask anybody what's Tai Chi, I'd say to them, if they ask me, I'd say, well, when I walk through Hong Kong in the mornings, right, and I see lots of people doing these very soft, graceful, balletic movements, that's Tai Chi. And they would say to me invariably, but that's not fighting.
That's not kung fu.
Yeah. So I'm interested in that journey as well.
Okay. So that journey, before that journey, I was a student in Hapkido, and then at the same time,
Who was your first instructor?
my first instructor was Gavin Sneal. Gavin Sneal from Herein Hapkido Association.
Is this the Gavin that Master Jack used to train alongside?
And then his teacher is Master Hong.
Right.
And Master Hong is a real interesting character because he was sent by the Korean government to teach Hapkido in the UK. Okay. And
to everybody or to special forces?
To special forces,
Right.
to the army. And he then went up to Norwich and taught a group of people up there.
Right.
And an amazing character, and he's my Hapkido teacher today. I'm still under his wing. Every so often I get a call from Barry. Hello, Barry. Master Hong. Are
Amazing.
you training? I'm like, yes, Master. Suddenly I feel like 12 years old again, 55. I'm like,
That's wonderful.
you need to train, Barry. You need to train hard. Okay. Okay. You must give it your best shot. You must train. And when you've got an interesting character like that
Wow.
behind you, and he stayed at my house, and he's into the Diamond Sutra. You can have a look on Google.
Right.
He's all into the philosophy, and yeah, he's a real interesting character. And so as other teachers as well, there's been another teacher called Trevor Rand, Jacques, as we know as well. He was also one of my teachers and kind of like led me and guided me. And also, I need to actually big up Jacques a lot, because Jacques is the one who really, again, like when we talked about self-esteem and stuff like that, I had no self-esteem.
Right.
And Jacques really saw something which I didn't see.
This is Master Jacques Jules.
Yeah. And Master Zach Jules, wherever you are
In Mauritius.
in Mauritius, in that nice, beautiful place, you deserve every bit of it. And
Now, that's a unique character.
and I met him as a young. I met him in the 80s. I did, and he was a lot older than me, and he was always nice to me, always nice, and maybe he could see I was a bit troubled or a bit lost or whatever.
Probably.
But he always gave me one of my first teaching careers and jobs in the London School of Economics.
Right.
Wow.
He also, and which I was getting paid very good money.
That's the first
for
place I
that.
trained with Jacques.
Yeah.
LSE, yeah.
Yeah, and he had faith, he had confidence in me, which I didn't even have in myself.
He's got a knack of that, hasn't he?
Yeah, yeah,
You say, no, I can't do that. He said, what are you talking about?
yeah. And
yeah.
and he when I met him, he had this big afro, a bit like
yeah.
Gene Kelly out of Enter the Dragon.
Yeah.
He was like that. He was like very much like that. And maybe he encountered a lot more than I knew of. So yeah, much respect
Big
to
up, Master
Jacques.
Yeah.
Wasn't he a bus driver?
Yeah.
He was,
Yeah,
and very humble.
Yeah,
Humble.
he's a lovely man.
And
I can't wait for him to come back, actually, because I haven't seen him for a little while. It's either I meet up with him over here, or I might have to jump on a plane. It's one or the other.
yes. So going from the Hapkido, I was experimenting, exploring, and I got into kickboxing with the McGinlay boys down in Tunbridge Wells Club, King's Cross, with Major Suzuki.
Because at the time, Hapkido was not really it wasn't sanctioned as being competitive.
No,
Yeah.
it wasn't a
And
competitive.
I remember
they
there was
didn't
a
have the
big
sport
bust up with
element.
Masan Gobani in Northern Ireland, and
Yes.
he went into that, and it was a big.
That's right.
I remember
And,
that.
I mean, again, an amazing Hapkido
Yes, from
guy.
Iran,
If
yeah.
you get an opportunity to train with him in Ireland, he's again a very humble guy and really knows his stuff. And so I was exploring and cut, paste, edit, save as,
Okay. She's underpinning
all of it.
Yeah.
And maybe I had too many tabs open and running a bit slow.
Yeah.
But I was hungry. I was searching,
Right.
and so I got involved with kickboxing, which I met up with again another amazing teacher called Chris McNish, and he trained under Major Suzuki, and Major Suzuki was teaching karate. Then They developed freestyle karate in the 70s, what became kickboxing.
Right.
And American kickboxing. And Chris McNish, again, was one of these real characters. And then there was another one called Dwyer, Sensei Dwyer, who also was an amazing fighter and athlete and human being as well. And both of them also had a lot of faith and confidence in me, again, but I didn't have. And both of those people were kind of Jamaican, West Indian heritage.
This episode was brought to you by Reality Sound System and Alpha Bravo Films.
So, and then I got into Wing Chun.
Okay.
So Wing Chun.
This was after a motorbike accident.
That's exactly
I
it.
did my research.
So I was, again, very low, very down, and as all athletes do when they're injured, suddenly I wasn't Superman, and realised that I was flammable and I was, you know, so I went to look at the upper part of the body, of understanding the upper part, of just isolating the movements and getting understanding. So I trained with a guy called Austin Go. And,
Really?
and, yes. I trained with him for 5 years religiously. From Monday to Friday, we become very, very close friends. He got me a job on a remix of Everybody Is Kung Fu Fighting, which again is one of those iconic songs. And suddenly I grew up as a young child looking at Top of the Pops, watching, what's his name? Is it Douglas?
Carl Douglas.
Carl Douglas. You know, with his bandana and
Oh, we thought that was so cheesy, man. Me and my brethren, we would hide.
We did.
So that, and then there was a remix by these kind of white middle class whatever, and they done a remix of it. And who was there on the set? He was there, and he was all part of it. So I got to meet him, and there's a video out there with me somewhere doing stuff.
All right.
But I love Wing Chun, and then from Wing Chun I gravitated to, they say, the thinking man's martial arts, Tai Chi.
Right, yeah.
Did some Qigong as well, right?
Qigong and Tai Chi are like brothers and sisters. They go hand in hand.
Right.
A bit like Hapkido and Taekwondo.
Right.
They're like brothers and sisters.
Okay.
And Judo. They're all interrelated.
Yeah.
Like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Judo.
Yeah.
Right.
Or Jiu-Jitsu. They're all part of the same family.
So yeah, I was just saying the Wing Chun, when you started the Wing Chun, was the University of Wing Chun still on the Euston Road at the time?
I don't know, because I was very much like that.
Right.
I was like a racehorse. I was just like not looking out. I was just like, and I get a bit obsessed.
Okay.
And I think anyone who's like spends a lot of time doing stuff, I think we get very much kind of like tunnel vision.
Yes,
Right.
of course.
And it was like we get very obsessed. And my partner will tell you, she's like, oh, I'm into gardening at the moment.
Okay.
And I'm like,
I was going to ask you about your other stuff as well, but I
Yeah,
wanted to
we'll
get
leave
the
that
Tai
for
Chi
now.
stuff there.
So, but I was very, like 5 years, like I say, it's like Monday to Friday.
Wing Chun, Wing Chun,
all
Wing
the
Chun.
workshops as well, everything. I stuck to him like glue.
Yeah.
Austin had a shop down Carnaby Street, little kung fu shop,
Okay.
you know, and so I used to hang out there, help out, you know, cut my teeth there.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I heard about the notorious kind of the basement down in Stoke Newington, which was run by a guy called Nino Bernardes,
Okay.
which also Shaq, I believe, trained in Eskrima and Filipino martial arts and stuff
Yes,
like that.
that's right.
Which apparently I hear later on that Nino trained with Wong Shong Long, he was a very famous kind of like rooftop fighter in Hong Kong. And he was told, no more Filipino martial arts. It's like Wing Chun but these are just rumors and stuff like that.
Okay.
But so while I was training with Austin Go, I went down to the basement and I rocked up like a cheeky young man.
You're an upstart.
And I was like, where is this place? The basement? Oh, I'm like, yeah, come on, man. Let's get down there. And I went down there and got there. And I think I may have even crashed my car trying to find it or something like that. You know, I was so eager
innit?
and so hungry for it, hunting and stuff. And so I eventually found it. I went in. And back in the day, you can't just rock up to
No, you
someone's
can't.
class,
You've got to be
man.
invited.
And it's like, well, who are you? So I turned up all just like, yeah. It's like, yeah, I've come to check you out. The man is like,
That's
so
like kung fu film, innit?
you come to check me out.
Innit?
It's like, well, who are you? And you know, and what are you? And he came outside of the class, closed the door, and we had a private chat. And then I was on my feet, gone, and it was just, you know, you're not allowed. You're not.
Okay,
You're already training somewhere else.
Right.
Yes.
And that's part of learning the martial art etiquette.
Yeah.
You're eating food on your plate. Why do you want other food?
Yeah, for real.
Unless you're finished with that, then have that. What camp are you in?
Yeah.
Because back in the days, now we have mixed martial arts, very different. Yeah, I do a bit of judo. Yeah, I do a bit of Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Yeah, then I do my striking, my Muay Thai, and then I do my American wrestling, you know. And so it's like everything is so much more embraced. Before, back in the day, everything was very separate.
Yes.
You're in that camp, you stay over that camp. You know, and back in the day, it's like martial arts is like Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola went to India, and Indian people said, "We want to know the recipe."
Right.
No, you don't know our recipe. Indian people went, "Go away, Coca-Cola. Then we don't want you." So, a martial art training system is learning their recipe of how to fight, how to be, how to understand movements, and it wasn't about just I want to see what you do, and I was very maybe inexperienced and impolite, and I was learning.
How old was you roughly these times?
I was probably round about in my early 20s.
Okay.
And this is just after my motorbike accident. Yeah, so it was, early 20s.
Okay.
And remember that we were younger and there wasn't the internet around and there wasn't
right.
YouTube. You had Foyle's bookshops,
Tottenham Court
Watkins.
Road. I don't remember Watkins.
And Watkins is a bit more esoteric.
Right.
It is. And then you had Compendium Bookshop, which was the hippie kind of bookshop.
And I didn't have pictures in my mind.
Yeah. So everything was harder knowledge.
Yeah.
You had
To
to
attain it, you had to seek
to
it.
get it, and
real.
so you'd sit down in the bookshops and read the books, and because you couldn't afford them, and you'd be sitting
real.
on the steps and kind of. So yeah, that I from Wing Chun, I wanted to understand, and I didn't understand this at the time. I wanted to go into more Chinese martial arts and understand more about my culture of where I come from. And that's, in hindsight, I can say that, but in the process, I didn't understand that as a young man. Kind of understanding about my culture, my philosophy, the history of where a certain part comes from, my Irish ancestors, my Celtic ancestors, and I kind of had an understanding, and I felt kind of a connection with that.
Right.
And I guess having an absent father, of the culture, the food, the mentality.
So when your father was absent, was the whole of his family absent as
Yes.
well? Right, okay.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So
So
that
he was
means the
really-
whole
yeah.
culture is denied.
You've got part of you is missing, basically,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yeah.
And you found it in martial arts, or Chinese martial
Yes.
arts
Very,
specifically.
very much so.
Yeah.
But then, so much so that then I was teaching at Camden Chinese Community Centre, which is the first cultural Chinese centre to be set up in the UK.
Okay.
Let's talk about the Zulu warrior,
Yeah.
Jashaka. I know you went to his 9-night the other day, so I know that he played a paramount part in your life. So just tell me about when you used to first go to Shaka, the vibes you used to get. Tell me the thing. Talk the
Yeah,
thing.
what can I say? As in, first, give thanks and praise to Jashaka
Yes.
Right.
and all the blessings
Rest
and good
in Zion,
vibes,
yes.
what he guided us
Mm-hmm.
and everything, everything just like guidance and protection.
Another one of these icons.
Just again, just from early days of going South London and on the train, on the bus, and if you're North London and if you're going over to South London, those were treacherous days going to South London.
I thought I was the only one who felt that. But everyone is like, nah, I didn't really feel that. It's like, what?
South London was, was bad man
Yeah. Isn't it?
turf,
real.
and it was unknown territory, and going to these places where there wasn't many white people, and back in the day I used to have very long hair,
Okay.
and yeah, it was just an amazing environment to be in. Just, and whether it's massive, there's the stereotype like over 6 foot rastas with big staffs in the room, and
Doing their kung fu
skank. All of it. I was just like,
Yeah.
wow. And just the consciousness of the lyrics,
Yes.
and that the hardship,
Yeah.
all of it. Rice and peas in the ghetto,
So you were
all
saying
of it.
like being the only white person, so to speak, in the dance, or mixed race. Sorry. I suppose your martial arts and everything, and those teachings helped keep your stance and your balance and your position within the environment. You see what I'm saying? It gave you a good balance.
Yeah.
As a person, you
Absolutely,
because you didn't want to
absolutely.
be intrusive, and you know what I mean. You just want to hold your corner.
Yes.
underneath it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Absolutely. And I was very much kind of back in the day, a bit like all of us. We'd like walk out with nunchuckers under our arm so they could pull out. and then like you see me wearing a Chinese top
Yeah,
now.
I love it.
I'd wear like a Chinese top to Shaka.
Yeah, okay.
And back in the day, sometimes if I was like brave enough, I'd get my little Chinaman hat.
Wicked.
And
Right.
just kind of represent
Yes, I.
the culture, which I didn't really know. I only learned from TV or books or whatever, but I was representing, and I was doing my thing.
Yeah.
Kind of kung fu cockney guru,
Yeah.
kind of a mix up of it
See.
all.
Yeah.
And that's when straight from the mothership.
Yeah, man.
Where you're from.
Natural
And
vibes. Yeah.
so yeah, it was just so real and honest.
For us, well, for me, and I know for a lot of us, it was a thing like you go kung fu and then you go shaka. So it kind of went hand in hand at
Yeah.
a certain time. You know what I mean? You go to late night, watch a couple films. When late night finished, you go Phoebe's or you go Norwich or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And taking shaka and like I say, you see all the moves, the kung fu moves in the skanking and
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Everything what you've just said there.
Yeah.
That there was a massive crossover.
There was.
There was.
of
And
cultures.
but
Yeah.
there was like kind of like culturally they were like, oh well, what was like all of these like black people and kind of like Asian people over there in late night smoking, and we were all smoking, and they were all smoking or coming from gambling. You go to
Yeah.
Holloway late night,
Yes.
and Five Venoms
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Snake in the Monkey Shadow,
Yeah,
and
innit? Snake and Eagle's
all of
Claw.
it, and it was just, and then it was always one black guy with a Chinese girl there, what just always
See.
looked like the Don Dada.
See.
Kind of like, it's like, well, how did she get like a
Innit?
Chinese girl? It's like,
2 levels above. That's not even
it's
one
like
level
all of
above.
that
That's 2.
fascination.
Innit?
And again, the cross cultures of the world.
Yeah.
And then the resentment, you could see the Chinese guys looking at the black guy like, oh, disrespect our culture, and all of that bullshit,
Yeah,
man.
for real.
Which we got lost in, and we
Yeah.
got, it was like magic, sprinkles of magic, which was we were attracted to, and there was a magic there.
man.
And Shaka was like the punk rock of reggae
See.
in that sense. He was like going in a different direction with the sirens, and when, oh my God, you hear the
Yeah,
sirens.
he
and
definitely went his own way.
all of it. It was just like, it wasn't like kind of smiley culture kind of vibe.
yeah.
Completely different.
It's King David style.
Yeah.
Yeah, going Phoebe's was like going to church, man. That's
Yeah.
why, you know, when Shaka went and played other places, it didn't resonate with me personally as much as going Phoebe's. 'Cause
Yes.
Phoebe's had its, not only was he a resident there every Friday night, it was
the
part
basement.
of my weekly chronology. You know what I mean? Your beard pun Sunday, you got Shaka on Friday.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
Part
part
of
of
your
that
order,
weekly thing.
innit?
So to go with Shaka and, you know, he's in Brixton Town Hall, yeah, you'd go, but it wouldn't have the same
Vibe.
the same
Absolutely.
resonance at all.
And but then in a sense, it's interesting you say all of this, because also being a sound man, I was part of a sound of Roots Ting sounds, and we were like brothers.
Okay.
And I helped make some of them speakers. You had
Seen.
Simon, who was the sound man,
Seen, yeah.
and then you've got Roots Ting, the selector. I was also one of those selectors.
Okay.
And so was Michael Kennedy, so was Darren Blair, and yeah,
Good,
and finally whittled down to Roots Ting.
Yeah.
It did.
Yeah.
And
You're still going now.
yeah, he's still
still
going that.
going,
He
yeah.
plays a lot more in France.
Yeah, he
does.
played West London a few weeks ago, about a month or so ago.
Yeah, so we were like brothers, like proper,
Okay.
kind of like we
Wow.
lived together. We started a business with each other called Helping Hands, and but you know things part.
Yeah.
and we're learning again how to be
Men.
men.
For real.
And how to be big men.
Yeah.
When they talked back in the day, like this big people's dance, I never quite understood that, and now I understand that.
Yeah,
You-
yeah, as I
but
didn't first.
you have to put your big boy pants on.
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
It's like, come
For real.
man.
So now you're actively teaching at the moment. So you're still teaching at London School of Hapkido. Is that still at LSE?
No, that's in North London, Kentish Town now.
Oh, right.
That is, yeah.
And you're running the show. Who you?
I'm the teacher of the London branch.
Right.
I'm under Master Hong of the Hanyang Hapkido
Yeah,
Association, and their headquarters are up in Norwich,
Right.
in Norfolk.
Wasn't up in Norwich they had another sort of spin-off
Yes,
brand of Hapkido?
that's
I
right.
can't remember.
Simu something.
That was that Jörg Ziegler?
Yes,
The
that's
Swiss
right.
dude?
Absolutely. Yes.
Sinmu Hapkido.
Yes, that's
Right,
exactly it.
right.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got it.
Okay. So Tai Chi. Tell me the fascination or the appeal for you as a practitioner and as an instructor.
Tai Chi for me is like my pension. It's like, now, for instance, if we look at the fire brigade, or we look at the police force, or we look at any kind of work environment, and if you've been working
Where
there,
we going?
and if you can be working there from a young age,
Yes.
to have a really good pension, and there's not
Right.
many of them from back in the day.
Right.
You get more and more money as you get older.
Right.
And I use this analogy because everyone relates to money, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so I see Tai Chi as a high interest account, like an ISIS. And it's interesting. Going back to Hapkido, there was a woman who brought hot yoga over from America called Bikram Yoga. And her name was Michelle. And she also trained here at Hapkido. And she was responsible for Bikram Yoga coming over to UK.
Did
and
you
I
know
went
hot yoga
to
was a thing?
I didn't know.
I knew somebody who did that.
yeah, and where they put big heaters on and they do it. But anyway, I went to one of her class. She was there. She goes, "Oh, Barry, it's you from Hapkido." She went out with one of the teachers there, etc. And she goes, "You must. How's your body? Mine's messed up." And I was like, "Mine's fine, man. I've been doing Tai Chi and Qigong."
Right.
And as I said earlier on, I've recently, just before lockdown, I started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. The teacher is the same age as me and the same birthday, the same date, the same month, the same year. He's been doing martial arts all his life. And he's like, wow, the way that you move is incredible.
You use a phrase, your body bank.
Yeah, it's the body bank.
Yeah,
Absolutely, Tony.
yeah.
When we look at the lotus blossom, we always focus on the beautiful, enlightened, the lotus blossom, but we forget about the long stem underneath the water, the hollow stem of the lotus blossom, and then the dirt and the murky, muddy waters, and the entwine and everything twisted, messed up, the roots all like twisted and untwined.
Which is the real beauty, really, because that's the nourishment.
Yes.
That's on a cellular level.
Yes.
That's the beauty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where I get my beauty from.
Right.
You know, the pretty and the ugly, beauty and the beast,
Yes.
the thorn and the rose. It kind of sheds some light on my approach. And again, these are all things I've learned from different teachers. And what does Tai Chi give to me? Again, it's the teachers what you encounter. Finding the right teachers, the right elders, the right people you hang about, whether good things stick to you, bad things stick to you, you need to just go, no, that's not me. No, that's not the real me. No, that's not the real me either. No, that's not the real me.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that might be starting to look a bit like the real
Yeah.
me.
You did mention everything was good with a certain teacher or instructor, but then you said something, you got gurued out. I'd use that
very
word.
much
Got to
so.
be too guru-ish.
And some teachers can be very good at teaching you how to do a roundhouse kick, how to get you into a choke, how to, you know, do tan style, pak style, fook style, and all of these things, but they're gambling. They're always having arguments.
Yeah, their vices.
They're always sleeping with the students.
Yeah.
They're always
There's a
having
purity of
troubles.
spirit. Yeah. That's
And looking for that holistic thing. And I found that very much in Richard Watson and Simon Watson. And again, the family vibe and the whole family unit, and in that sense. And again, whether that comes from something from my personal journey, discovery, looking for the family, and whether it's the family in Shaka dance, when you reach there and you go, yeah, and you just look, you don't need to say anything else. And over the years and years, you turn up to Shaka and you're there, and it's not, you don't get your stripes from 1 or 2, it's like 1 or 2 decades.
Absolutely.
It's like, you're still here.
Yeah.
And you're still busting those moves. Right.
See.
And we should pay a tribute to Richard Watson.
And Richard Watson was a formidable human being, and he practiced martial arts from a very, very young age, and again, come from a very working class, poor kind of, and then climbed his ladder of his life and his experience.
He just did the one art, right?
He done Tai Chi, and him and his son Simon and Richard were really important people for me. I had another teacher before, and he got all gurued out. He was a great teacher at the beginning of my apprentice. I was the sorcerer and the apprentice.
Yes.
And like Luke Skywalker and Yoda. And sometimes you got to slow down, Rasta. You need to stay here. Just, we're not ready for King David style yet. We're ready for Shanti style. Just move. We're not ready for
completely
steppers.
appropriate for that time.
It's like, when the lights turn on Shak, now we're ready to step. And it's like, So, it's a big thank you to Richard Watson and Simon Watson.
So currently, what you're doing now, we've established that you're teaching now. What's the future hold for Master Baza?
Master Baza, I'm very kind of...
He's already mentioned pension.
That's the body bag pension.
Yeah.
And very much being present in what I'm receiving in these times. These are tough times at the moment. What we're living in this day and age, and they are turbulent times, I would say, and so who knows what the future holds. I'm very relaxed and day to day, as we all had to take and adopt,
Yes.
very much so, what we've just come out of. And so for me, I'm spending a lot of time in Bagua. There's there's 3 internal martial arts in the Chinese systems: Bagua, Xingyi, and Tai Chi. Tai Chi is the more known internal martial arts.
Right.
There's internal martial arts and external martial arts in the martial art worlds. And you can't have one without the other. And there's a constant, we have it in the music, in the funk analogy. You got to get up to get down, and you got to get down to get up.
Yes.
So you can't have yin without yang, and you can't have soft without hard.
Yeah.
So I'm spending a lot of time in Bagua and Xingyi at the moment with my teacher. And you have a certain responsibility, again, as you come to a certain age, you become someone who has to be responsible to carrying a culture, a lineage of a certain style of martial arts, whether it's Hapkido, whether it's Xingyi, whether it's Bagua, whether it's a family lineage art. And I was listening to a woman talk about Gaelic music and Scottish and Irish music, and she said a beautiful thing. These songs didn't belong to anyone; they were given to. They're given to you.
Yeah.
And when they're given to you, you are like a custodial.
Yeah,
You're
'cause
there
there's
to
no
look
ownership.
after them.
You're like the vessel.
Yeah, you're there to look after them and to
Yeah.
pass them on. So really, I am at that stage of my life in this process of still developing my own practice, and because I just love learning and being a student in martial arts.
Yes.
It's very much about being someone who passes on the art, and it's my time to give back. I took a lot from, now I have to give back.
Yes.
As we take from the land, we must also we go back to the land.
For real.
In that sense.
I don't know if we could have made a more beautiful ending to this fascinating
Absolutely.
conversation. Barry, Master Barry, I'm going to call you from now on, not because
No master.
No, I just want to thank you for your generosity. Thank you for your openness. And thank you for spending time talking with us. It's been an absolute joy and a pleasure. And lovely to see you again after so many years.
Yes, and just thank you for giving me the opportunity of sharing
Honor, trust me.
of that. And a lot of that is quite challenging for me as well, to share a lot of that. But hopefully, like you said, what's behind the person who does it, it's not about what you've achieved. It's like, how did you get there?
And the journey, like.
How's that possible?
Yeah.
Really, because really our youths and all the people, there's so much trouble in the world today, as the great master said.